Next, we are honored to welcome from the United Kingdom, member of the Order of the British Empire, Michael Whine. Mr. Whine is a former member of the European Council's Commission Against Racism and Intolerance, and he was also a co-founder of the Community Security Trust, and long served as Defense and Group Relations Director for the Board of Deputies of British Jews. Mr. Whine, welcome.
Good evening. My task tonight is to talk to you about two issues which can help guide you in your work and which has been distributed to you. The first of them has been distributed to you, which is the ECRI policy recommendation on combating anti-Semitism. You should all have it in your packs. The target audience for policy recommendations, indeed the target audience for ECRI's work, are governments, national governments. And they're expected to use the recommendations in policy formulation and the drafting of laws. They're also relevant, of course, for civil society. The ECRI working group, which I head, recognized that anti-Semitism comes from different directions, and so we described its history before we looked at contemporary forms. These obviously include delegitimization of Israel, Holocaust denial and distortion, and the increasing harassment of Jewish women. Crucially, we advise states to combat anti-Semitism at all levels of government. Governments can make laws, but fighting anti-Semitism has to be done at the local level and carried out by local government, local police, and local education authorities. It's on the streets, the classrooms, and the media where it occurs, and that has to be fought by first responders in particular, the criminal justice agencies, and educators. That's the local level, and it's why our third recommendation in the guidance calls on states to ensure that the fight against anti-Semitism is carried out at all administrative levels, national, regional, local, and that they must facilitate the involvement of a wide range of actors from different sectors of society, in particular political, legal, economic, social, religious, educational, and cultural, in these efforts. Our sixth recommendation advises governments to appoint national coordinators to supervise and coordinate efforts, and who act, or who are intended to act, as a bridge between government, law enforcement agencies, relevant public bodies, and Jewish communities. Our country reports, which is what we're most known for, are not based on inquiries or testimonial evidence. They're carried out every 5 years based on information gathered from a wide variety of sources, including national and international agencies. Our in-situ visits provide the opportunity to meet with the parties directly concerned, both governmental and non-governmental, with a view to gathering detailed information. And we take an incremental view. In other words, we look at what we said 5 years previously, what has changed, and what more might be done. And you may notice that part of our strapline is to deal with anti-Semitism. When you consider the origins of the Council of Europe and the fact that it was formed in the immediate aftermath of the Second World War with a view to putting in place a human rights-based system of governments in Europe, then anti-Semitism was amongst the human rights abuses that were foremost in the minds of the drafters of the Human Rights Convention and of the other areas that the Council of Europe deals with. Our reports are debated in our plenary sessions by our 46 members, then subjected to a confidential dialogue with national authorities who may change only errors of fact. They then sent to the Council of Europe Committee of Ministers, the foreign ministers of all the member states, and only then published. This whole process takes about a year, and our reports are regarded as the most authoritative. We expect governments to apply our recommendations, and we include 2 or 3 priority recommendations which we expect them to act on within 2 years. And we return and check that they've been acted upon. We've no hard sanctions for not heeding our recommendations, but we inspect countries on their application, and the European Court of Human Rights uses them in its judgments. Last year, we analysed how states have used these recommendations and established that over 70% have been applied by the governments concerned. The second point I was asked to speak about is the UK's Community Security Trust, CST, of which I was joint founder. And several people who are here today have mentioned to me that they've heard of it or they've been to our office, which is quite an impressive, or has an impressive installation in which we can look by video at every Jewish institution in the United Kingdom and can be in touch with police helicopters and police cars to alert them of any problems arising in the vicinity of the synagogues or the schools. CST is a self-funded and directed Jewish defence organisation which works within and in partnership with other community organisations. It's the successor to predecessor organisations that date back to the end of World War II, when Jewish ex-servicemen returned home to find neo-Nazis still on the streets of Britain and attacking Jews. We started as a secretive organisation, but we quickly came to realise that we needed to work with the police, not against them, and with the Jewish community. We needed to recruit members, and we needed to commit the community to report incidents and suspicions. At that time, the police were frankly not up to the job of doing that. They are now, but they weren't then. After some years monitoring anti-Semitic incidents, we recognised that the categories that we used needed to be better aligned with those that the police use, so the categories were refined to fit criminal justice categories. The police were initially suspicious, as we were of them, given the history of the 1930s and 1960s. But after the 1994 bombing of the Israel Embassy and the London offices of an Israel charity, the police realised that we were professional and serious. They offered to train us. And some of my colleagues and I were given all sorts of police and security training which has never been offered to any other community in the UK, or indeed, I suggest, anywhere else in Europe. We also realised that we needed to broadcast the same message as the police. We couldn't say that there had been 300 incidents when the police said they only knew of 150 incidents. The police rightly asked why there was the press asked rightly why there was a discrepancy. So we pioneered the mutual exchange of incidents data based on a renewable legal contract between CST and the national police body. On a regular basis, CST and the National Police Hate Crime Unit mutually exchange their data. This exchange conforms to data protection legislation, and our annual contract is viewable on the National Police website, as it is for the National Anti-Muslim Incidents Monitoring Body, Tel Mama, who we trained. Apart from regular CST meetings with the police, locally and nationally, we hold a threat assessment meeting with the police, and CST researchers share security and terrorism threat assessments with the police and other government agencies. CST now also trains other faith communities and to protect themselves through our SAFE programs. And most of our clients are mosques and churches. The program is viewable on our website. As you realise, and has been said repeatedly, since the beginning of October, anti-Semitic incidents have risen dramatically. Governments are becoming ever more worried as they realise that Jewish citizens live in fear and that civil disorder is threatened. Both the French Jewish community and CST last week reported over 1,500 anti-Semitic incidents since the beginning of October. These are huge increases over previous years. Governments are struggling to combat mounting anti-Semitism that comes from the far right, the far left, and some Muslim organisations. And all the declarations that they've committed to in recent years seem to be worth very little. They have to combat the racist backlash against Muslims as well. So, as I said at the beginning, you have a basic responsibility as mayors and local authority officials to deal with this before it overwhelms your cities. Mayors and local officials must take on this responsibility, ensure that anti-Semitic crimes are prosecuted where the law allows, enhance the security of Jewish institutions, and send messages of support and publicly recognise Jews' roles in Europe. Thank you.